everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we are presenting webinar on Be True, Be Here, Be You, organized by Applied Science and Humanities Department of Farul Polytechnic Institute, Farul University. The main agenda of this webinar is to prepare students for the future. I, Vaishali Nathwani, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, a journalist, an author, a speaker, and an MC by profession, Freda Louis from Malaysia. Working with BFM 89.9, Malaysia's leading business station, she has conducted over 5,000 interviews with prominent names which include author Stephen Covey, motivational speaker Nick Vijay, former GE CEO Jack Welch, the Duke HRH Prince Andrew, and the founder of Julian Assange. She previously worked for Engelmann PR and IBM Asia Pacific and also as a news presenter on national radio and TV. She was awarded the ASEAN Rice Bowl Award for Malaysia Startup Journalist of the Year and a nominee for Magic Social Enterprise Journalist. She previously worked for IBM Asia Pacific and also as a news presenter on various national radio and TV stations. She not just talks business, but she knows business. She has the ability to offer amazing insights not only from the countless entrepreneurs and business people she has interviewed, but also from her personal experience. She is a mentor for the Cherry Blair Foundation for Women. Majoring in marketing with a Bachelor of Business from University of Southern Queensland, she has recently completed a postgraduate diploma in design thinking. It's a privilege to welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining in from India. Namaste. And it's very nice to see all of you. I have been to India many years ago and I actually stayed in Bangalore for about 3 weeks when I was working in IBM. So I just want to share a little bit about my background before I share the slides with you. Of course, as mentioned before, I used to work in IBM, and that was my last job. For about last over 10 years, I've now worked for a radio station, a business radio station, but I also do many other things from, emceeing and moderating events, and I write books. So what I'm about to share with you is some excerpts from the books that I've read. And I think at this point, as you're going through university, which seems like such a long time ago for me, you can call me auntie, right? The things that I've learned along the way. And I think even as you go through life, every stage can be a lesson, right? I've learned things when I was 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. So different things that I've learned and different things that I have grown from these different over the years that I've learned. So I'm just going to share this slide and I'll have this conversation with you. So let me get to this slide. Okay. So can you all see the slide? Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. A little bit why I'm talking about this is I think as we're going through life and we're going through university, we're thinking about, where is our position? Where are we going to move? So when I finished my studies, I graduated in Australia. I did a marketing degree. And although I'm not doing a marketing degree, what I've learned then has applied to my life, right? And I continue to use the elements of what I've learned, right? And I think it's important as well that, after, as I don't know what year in university you are right now, and it doesn't matter, you have to continue learning. Just because you've got a degree doesn't mean it's the end of learning, right? And I think that's one of the things that I've always appreciated. During my time when I was in university, there was no such thing as the internet, right? Now you've got access to information, whether it's through books, whether it's, going online to learn. So this is the last, I've written 6 books. This was the last book that I wrote, which came out this year. And it's about understanding that life's a stage, right? Life's a stage because you're always on the platform, but also that life happens in stages, right? And you're going to wonder after this, am I going to get married? Am I going to have children? And all these sort of things, right? And we're going to go through different life stages. So as I was writing this book, the first 10 years of my life, I was born in Brunei. And that was the years of understanding things and learning new things. And then during my teenage years, I had to move. My father retired, and I moved back to Malaysia. And teenage years, you're very rebellious. I was very rebellious, more so than I had to leave from another country to another country. Although it is my home country, I had no experience, so it was a very troubling period. But even during that time, I learned something. Right, in my 20s, it was about establishing my career. When I had my son, my baby boy, he's not a boy, not a baby anymore. It was that time, spending time with him, but also at the same time still working, right? And at that time, also thinking that I know one day my son will grow up, he will go on to have his own life, and preparing for that next stage of my life. And now it's about growth. Right. And it's always a bit, but I understand that underlying it is always about growth and changing. So that's a little bit about the last book I wrote. Now, one of these things, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's a very important thing that I've only learned maybe in the last 20 years and applied it to my life. And this is called the wheel of life, right? Although right now your studies are important, it is important, right? But you also, as you move on in life, understand that there are different aspects of your life, from your family and friends, that's very important, your career, or in this case, your studies, right? Relationship and romance, one day you'll think about it. Having fun, I think it's also important that we need to schedule fun into our life, right? Taking care of your health, especially now when we need to build our immunity, and spirituality, understanding your finances, and personal growth. Now, when you look at all these things, right, is there, and even though, like I said, your study is important, remember all these things are important. So every year I set goals in different areas of my life, and some things may have more emphasis than other, but I make sure that everything is looked into it, because if some things are more important than others, then your wheel isn't round, then it's difficult to move, right? So look into these various aspects of your life as you move on. And this is what I do every year. I set goals for the different areas of my life and what I want to achieve every year, right? And or it may not be achievement, right? But it could be, for example, in the case of family and friends, making sure that I spend time with friends, right? And I schedule time with friends, because now I can't meet up with them. I will schedule a call, or have a Zoom call, or a Google Hangout, or Google Meet, and just make sure that I'm in connection with my friends. If I don't make time for my friends, this will disappear. So even that is important. And when you need help, you'll need your family and friends, or whether it's a case of faith, right? Making time for your faith, whatever that may be. Now, one of the things I was talking about studying last year was called designing your life, and I'll spend a bit of time here. And as you are preparing for your future, right? Now, we all have to think like designers, right? And designers build their way forward and build your future prototype by prototype. And what we mean by this is that in, in the whole concept of design thinking, if when people come up with new product, before the product becomes a final product, they develop a prototype, right? And if that prototype doesn't work, they go back and build and on top of that prototype and do something again. So it's like your life. Can you apply and do something, and okay, it works, or I can improve on it, and I can try something new, right? If we have that mindset of being a design thinker, right, in terms of your life, right, then you're open to a lot more things. And just because if you do something and it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? It's just a prototype. Let me improve on that prototype, right? So that's a very important aspect in your thinking. um, I think one of the things as you are students, right, and this is something that you continue to have in your life, is to have five mindsets. Always be curious. Always be curious why people think this way. Always be curious about why this doesn't work, or how can it work, and that's important thing. To try stuff, right? And not say that's not for me, and not even try different things, right? To experiment, to read about it and learn about it. If it doesn't work, Okay, I'll try something else. Another thing that we need to think also is about reframing problems, right? Sometimes we think we are caught in a situation and says, "Oh, this is horrible." I'll tell you what are the challenges in my country at the moment. There are challenges politically in my country, and then sometimes you're thinking, "How am I going to ever, how am I going to actually look at this? How can I actually work through it?" And maybe you need to reframe your thinking is, "How can I help the next generation of leaders? How can I help improve get you're getting young people involved in politics, so there's a way of reframing problems in the words we say, right? And also understand that you're not going to have everything right the first time, and know it's a process, and ask for help. Look for people that you know around you. Look for it could be through a connection or through whatever, through your parents, through whoever, but ask for help. I ask for help. I go through different things in my life, and if I don't know something, I ask for help because I don't know have all the answers in the world, right? And I will not have all the answers in the world, but someone out that there will have an answer for something. So it's an important mindset as you actually venture out, finishing your studies and starting to work. Always have this mindset so that you will always be growing. Yeah. I'm not going to go through this exercise. This is an exercise that I go through with some other people. But I want to then come to this other book that I wrote, right? And this book is called Bursting Fixed Mindsets. And I think mindsets are such an important thing, right? And um, an element of a mindset is I don't have money. I don't know, I don't think I can solve this problem, right? How do we burst this mindset? Now, when I wrote this book, I interviewed 15 women, right? I'll tell you the situation with women when we talk about gender equality, right? On a global scale, only 30% of businesses are owned by women, right? So in Malaysia, only 20% of businesses are owned by women. And that is, to me, a challenge when we talk about gender equality. And, women in business will have an impact on people's lives. They actually, it's a different thing. So the other thing then I did research on is that a lot of women who actually start business also don't take it to a higher level, right? And I read this book before, just hitting a million, and I don't know, like maybe 1 crore, right? But in this case, in Malaysia, I use a million ringgit as a benchmark, right? A million ringgit would be about 250,000 US dollars. How many women have actually built businesses in excess of a million ringgit, right? Our money. And I wanted to know how these women thought. I didn't want to hear people say, "Oh, because I didn't have money, I did." I wanted to know how did they think differently because their business grew so big, right? So I want to share with you some of the women that I spoke to, the kind of businesses they have, and what they thought. And maybe when I look at it from a business perspective, I also want to look at it. How do I apply it into my own life, right? So that was an important thing. Okay, now before I get into that as well, how do we get into a growth zone, right? When you look at the out and we look at this picture, it's about finding purpose, about living your dreams, about setting new goals and concrete objectives, right? And a lot of us are very comfortable, right? Why are we comfortable? We want to feel safe and in control, right? And so to move to the growth zone, there's always going to be the fear zone, right? Because maybe we don't have the confidence. We're going to find excuses. I'm too poor. You don't know my life. It is very different. You're from Malaysia. We're from India, or vice versa, that kind of thing, right? And you're affected by other people's opinions as well. The beauty about the fear zone and getting to the growth zone is there's this thing called the learning zone. And that is the thing that you always want to get to. And I wanted to interview these women because they were in the learning zone. They learn how to deal with challenges and problems, right? And if they didn't know how to do it, they learn new skills, right? And they extended their comfort zone. So by doing these things, we know that there is a process to get to the growth zone, right? And that's so important. When you look at this, it's like, it's okay. I want to get to that point. I don't know what I need to do. Well, it's okay. You can learn to get to that point. But I'm gonna make you do things that are uncomfortable. Talking to you is not something that I do comfortably, right? Initially, right? But it's been a process of me trying. I remember the first time when I was doing this, right? My face was pale, right? I was pale from just fear, right? My hands were sweaty, right? So this was something that I have to overcome. And it was something that I had to learn. So nothing happens overnight, and that's the beauty. But if we want to learn, if we want to grow, there is a process. Okay. So this is a business about this woman called, if I have a picture of her, no, okay. So Batik Boutique is a social enterprise. A social enterprise, if you don't know, is a business that supports a cause. So there are people who are from what we call the lower income group in Malaysia, and she helps them to be artisans, teaching them to sew, teaching them how to do these things, right? And so that they can learn. So you don't give them fish, but you teach them how to fish, right? And so she was helping these women. And this business was started by an American woman who has decided to live in Malaysia, and she wanted to help these women to earn a living, and she's talked about having a vision. Now, as an American living in Malaysia, for the longest time, she didn't, she had these yearly passes to renew, right? And then suddenly she got this thing from Malaysia, which is called a Talon Pass, where you're allowed, even though she has a business, you're allowed to stay in Malaysia for 10 years. And then, you and your spouse can stay on for 10 years and find work, right? And she says, suddenly, I have a vision. I know that I can stay longer in this country and I can see where I want to take this business 10 years from now. Now, when I look at that, like, do you have a vision for your life, right? And if all you see is your textbook, right, that's all you're going to see. But do you have a vision of your life, right? And that vision of your life is not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen maybe 10 years from now, right? But have a vision for your life, whether you write down your goals, whether you put pictures of where you want to be, right? Have that picture of where you want to go, and then, take that step to move there. And I was like, okay, so she has a vision for a business. And I'm like, do I have a vision for my life? Where do I want to go with my life, right? So as you're now in a very exciting period, right, thinking about your future, have a vision for where you're going to be in 5 years' time. Have a vision from where you're going to be 10 years' time. And when 10 years has passed, have a new vision, right? So 10 years ago, I didn't think I'll be doing these sort of things, talking or writing books. And in the last 10 years, basically, I wrote 6 books, not something I've done before, right? But I said, I want to write a book. It started with, I want to write a book. And then from there, 6 books later. So have that vision of what you want to do, where you want to be. Okay, and I'm not going to go through all 15. I'm just going to go through some of them. Yeah. So this is another woman. Her name is Annabelle Martinen, and she has a company called LJ Superfoods. And what's so interesting about her, again, is that she's a Filipino Chinese who have also decided to settle in Malaysia, right? And she talks about growing a brand, right? And how when people buy, and I read this somewhere, when people buy from you one time, you have a product. When people buy from you the second time, you have a brand. And so when she started a business maybe 6, 7 years ago, it was about cold pressed juices. And it was very exciting. I don't know if it's available in India. I'm sure it is. But it was about everybody was into this juicing kind of thing. And so there were a lot of players. There were a lot of players in that space. Now, I'll tell you this, there are not many juicing companies anymore. And her business has also grown beyond just juices. But what she did was she said growing a brand, apart from, marketing it and doing all these things, was about handling the back end of the business, right? So she made the business halal, right? And you're thinking, why do you need to make juices halal, right? What's that? But Malaysia is largely a Muslim population, but also the idea behind halal is that the process of developing the cold pressed juices was very sanitary. And if you don't wash your fruits properly, then you're not going to get very, hygienic juices as well. So that whole process of doing that, right? So when people look at the back end, they don't think about it. But she says it was important to take care of the back end of things to grow a brand. Now, so as you're growing a brand for yourself as well, right? Whether you're putting yourself out on LinkedIn and everything, yes, it is important to put to yourself out there as you want to stand out in the crowd. But know that you need to get the back end sorted. You do need to come with the qualifications. You do need to come with the qualities like hard work. You do need to come with all these things, right? That you don't just come with the fluff and the nice things, that when you say that I'm going to do something, talk about it, you're actually someone who do that. That's how you grow your brand, not just on the outside, but also on the inside and also from behind the scenes. And that's how you grow a brand. So it was very interesting when I look at that as well. How do I apply growing a brand to myself? And that's why, like last year, I did a postgrad diploma in design thinking, because I want to be able to be a better person. I got myself certified as a futurist, right? Why? Every year, I don't know about you, but in Malaysia, everybody buys a new version of the phone every year, right? And I'm sure that's the case, right? The newest phone, the latest phone. Now, if a phone changes and improves every year, shouldn't you improve and change every year? Right? And you would buy into, so I need to improve and change every year, because if I serve people, if I sell my products and services, I better be a better me and not the same old me. And that's why I was saying that if you're studying, the education doesn't end when you get your degree. It continues. Yeah. Okay. Uh, Mentors everywhere. Okay. This is very interesting. Um, this is a lady. Her name is Ann Tam. She's from a company called Ace Adventures, and Ace Adventures owned international schools. Okay, she owns international schools. One of her international school is actually the first entrepreneurial school. So from primary one, or standard one, or whatever you call it, they're at 7, 6, 7 years old. They're already learning to be business owners. So this is very interesting, and I look at what she's doing. And so she at heart is a teacher, but she's also a business person. And she draws that line where I'm a teacher, but at the same time, I'm also growing a business. And her first inspiration was this gentleman called John Maxwell. I don't know if you heard of John Maxwell. And her mentor may not be someone you see physically or know physically. It was a book. It was a book she read about leadership, right? And so, and from there, she went on to listen to CDs. Okay, I don't know if you guys know what that is. She went on to attend seminars, right, to improve herself. And so when I look at mentors, your mentor need not be someone there. I buy a lot of books about women, business owners, women of business owners around the world. I make them my mentor without them knowing they are my mentor, right? Because I want to learn and see how they think. And mentors can be in the form of a book, mentors can be in the form of someone you admire. You have this thing called TED Talks. You have different people can be a mentor, because I want to get them to think. And so this woman who has got this huge business right now, she's going to start a school to teach children to be sustainable, right? Which is such an important thing as well. But your mentor, if you want to start thinking, need not be someone physical. Your mentor is everywhere around the world. If you like the way someone thinks, that's the way to go. I like Oprah Winfrey. I like Ariana Huffington, who started the Huffington Post, and she's a journalist by background, right? So I like how she's evolved and grown as well. So mentors everywhere. You can seek them out. They may not know you exist. It doesn't matter. You want to get into their head and how they think. Right. Okay. Diversity. This is also very interesting. Now go to christyeung.com. I don't think they export to India, but for all the ladies, she sells shoes. I've seen her when she first started, and she was selling shoes from her mother's living room, right? She was staying at home in the living room. Now, when we talk about diversity, we talk about different races, we talk about different religions, we talk about gender equality, we talk about these things. So because she was selling shoes, just by default, she attracts a lot of women to join her company. And then she started hiring men. And she said, they came in, when men came into the organization, it just changed her perspective in running things. She said that men were, in her opinion, were greater risk takers, and that things that she didn't dare to do because she hired men, she had the courage to do. Now, I'm not going to say men are better, women are better. That's not the point, right? The point is, diversity is very important, right? So in a country like it that's diverse, like in India, you've got different parts of people, people from different parts of India working together. Do you have equality when it comes to men and women, right? Because when you have that, your thinking is also different. And another thing about diversity, if you're trying to sell to women, what better than to have women in an organization to understand your target market, to understand your target audience, right? So it was just very interesting when we talk about gender equality, and we always talk about, yeah, hiring more women, getting more women on board, but it's also the other way around, right? It's not just, and he was saying getting men on board in a very women, so I think too much of one thing is never healthy. It's not going to help you to be innovative, right? And in an ideal situation, 50% male, 50% female, that should be the goal, so that you have different kinds of thinking. And so I want to apply that to my life as well, right? When I do certain things, do I get a perspective? If it's also sometimes just a perspective from a woman, great, right? I have great female friends, but I also want to hear perspective from a man who may look at things differently, so that I have to think differently, right? So that is so important, whatever you're going to do. Have diversity. And of course, if you have different perspectives, it'll actually solve a lot of world problems, right? When it comes to when we talk about religion and race. Okay, so that's one point. This is a lady. In this book, I interviewed all women in this case, right? Juris Technologies is one that they started this business in 1998. I'm sure a lot of you were not born then, but there was the internet wasn't so savvy, and we had a Asian financial crisis. I don't know if it impacted India. And so a lot of companies, a lot of banks at that time didn't know how to collect debts. And so what they started was a electronic way of helping the banks to collect debts. And so now the company is around, 20 plus years. And the company has evolved and changed. And she said there were many times when she wanted to let go of the company, or didn't have the perseverance to go through the company. And so what she did was, she continued working and all that, and of course it's now a very successful company. And I want to say that all the pictures that you've seen was actually featured in my book and drawn by a good friend of mine. And the case of perseverance, when we know that the caterpillars in the cocoon, right, they have to persevere to get out of the cocoon before they can turn to a butterfly. Now, whatever you're doing right now, do you have perseverance? I believe a lot of what I have uh, achieved in life, done in life, is because I've been doing it for a long time, right? The fact that I'm working radio is because I've been doing it for a long time. It didn't come from the last 10 years where I worked for this company. The experience came when 20 years ago when I started, right? So the perseverance of being in this space, of being in this industry, did not happen overnight. Okay, so that is Juris Technologies. Okay, here's another story. Baby-.com. Now, baby-.com sells anything and everything you need about baby products, right? And so her baby, she can't remember her name right now, but so what she does is, when the company wanted to grow, right, they went on this whole concept of crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, right? And when the people that invested in her company were her customers. Now, when you're trying to raise funds and your customers is putting money in your company, what does it say about you, right? And what happened is that how did they deal with every customer? Every customer that emailed, every customer that's WhatsApped, every company, every customer that came, they attended to every company's request and questions, right? And because of that, they built trust with their customers. And when the company then decided to raise money, because of the trust they have built, they were able to raise funds. And what a beautiful picture. Your customers is choosing to invest in your company to grow. This is one thing that's very important, right? Why would someone want to work with you for the long term? You can cheat someone one time, and then your work will not continue. And trust me, right? Your reputation will spread, right? And of course, we all believe in karma, right? If you what goes around comes around, right? So you've got to actually build trust with your customers, and it's the little things, right? And what I love is it's the little things that you build trust on. The fact that someone call you and you respond, that's trust, right? Be upfront about things. Yes, yes, no, no. But when you say you'll deliver, deliver, right? And that's how you build trust. Um, Early adopters. Now, as your Imagine Group is one of the largest stock photos companies in the world. They have moved on to do something. They're actually number three, right? Number three and number four in the world, and they're a Malaysian company. And the owner, her name is Stephanie. And so what has happened is when they started out with stock images, they were the ones finding people to take photographs. I know it's hard to imagine, right? But right now they work on a different business model. They've gone to other business models. But what they said was they were early adopters. Every time something new came about, they were very quick to jump onto it. They were very quick to jump onto it and to be ahead of the game, always to be ahead of the game, having to change your game, having to do different things, right? Now, if I were to apply that to live application, right? Um, I may not adopt the latest things, but I have to understand what's happening, right? People now on TikTok. I don't I haven't I'm on TikTok. I'm registered. I'm not doing anything on TikTok. But what I'm saying is I've got to understand what's happening. Where if I were to market myself to a different audience, I have to get onto a different platform. I have to be able to adopt. I have to, you hear people who lose their jobs because they've never adapted, they've never changed, they've never learned new skills. Now, as you go and start working in life, right, and you don't know, the job market has changed, right? You're going to be different things are going to happen. Technology is catching up so fast. Are you always learning new skills? Are you always be the first to learn about what's out there, whether you adopt it or not? But you've got to know what's out there and and if I need to change, I need to change, right? I need to grow and do different things. So be an early adopter in whatever you do. So I also want, regardless of how old I am, I'm not going to use, age as an excuse, because otherwise how am I going to grow? I want to change, I want to improve, I want to learn new things. It happens up here, right? And age is not an excuse. Mindfulness. Okay, here's another one, and this is a woman who actually palm oil plantations, and she is used to be a doctor. She's actually half Punjabi and half Chinese, and so she actually went to India, and she's a medical doctor by profession. And then she decided to start this company on palm oil plantations. What a diverse career direction. And she does a lot of actually mindfulness. And she says that's so important as she's running her business to stop and rest and think. When the pandemic hit us, especially in the working world, I find that this has been actually quite good because I've got more time to be mindful, to be reflective, because before, even if I try to, as much as I try to be mindful, like people always like needing and wanting attention. I find that it's happening right now that, you're always going to be online as well. But things have sort of stopped for a while, and, you've got to create some time. And I think like, in India where people meditate and everywhere else actually, but that's important to be mindful, to stop and think, and not just be on the go, go, go all the time, right? And this is so important as you want to grow your life, your business, to stop and reflect and meditate and do whatever it is to be, careful. So like now I can't do anything much, but when I go for a walk, right, I don't listen to anything. I just want to walk and feel the sun on my face and look at the different flowers and look at the different plants, right? If it's just an hour away, it gives me some clarity, right? And when I find that ideas will happen when I'm walking, but that's not the plan. I just want to stop thinking for a while and just let the mind rest. And it's important as you move on. Okay. Dr. Fazia, she is a dentist, and when she's a very business savvy person, and she had a clinic that was doing very well. And even though she was doing very well, she had a coach, right? right? A business coach to help her. And her business has since grown. She's got more clinics. She's running the business with a process and a system. And you will need a coach in life, right? And so coach, mentor, as you move on, you're going to need people who will help and guide you. And like even in sports, you have a coach, so why not have a coach for your life, which is also important, right? I have coaches sometimes relating to my life. I have coaches sometimes in other areas as well that I need to talk to. And then so I have coaches, and sometimes like I have a mind block, and I have a friend who is a coach, and I'll say, I need to chat with you about what's going through my head. And sometimes you need that. So as progressive as you are, if you want to take yourself to the next level, you will need coaches. Yeah. Okay. And at the end of the day, this is a company called Pick the Chart. They actually come up with a lot of presentations. They're based in a company up north in Malaysia, and she says sometimes you just gotta have faith. In whatever you do, right? And believe in a higher being, and believe your God, my God, whatever, right? And just to trust the process. Sometimes you think I need to do a certain thing, but sometimes you just need, and God may tell you, no, not yet, right? Or no, not now. And also just to trust the process. So she had a business, and that, she was a young business, and everyone's telling her to grow, 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 and it was just tiring her out and stressing her out. And she left a corporate job not to stress out, and she just said, no, I need to take some time out, right? And the business was functioning well, and now she's ready and she's taking it to greater heights. So also trust the process and to have faith when all else fails, right? Because I think that's so important that we have faith. Okay, I'm just going to go through about, and this is basically with women, right? What holds us back from moving forwards? And this is my last slide before I get into the Q&A. And this the English language has one word for fear, and that's called fear. I don't know about the in Punjabi or whatever the language, maybe in Hindi, but in the Hebrew language, there's two words for fear, and that's pashat and yira. Now, one of the and that's so important when you think about it. One word defines the fear of, we see a cobra, that's the fear, run. Okay, that makes common sense. But there's another word for fear, which is, this looks like an exciting new thing, but I'm afraid to take on this role, right? I'm afraid to do this thing, to get out of that comfort zone, right? Understand which fear it is that's holding you back. If that fear is going to help you progress and grow, understand that, because this fear won't kill you. It's not a cobra, right? And sometimes we have to look at that fear and say, I want to overcome that so that what makes me uncomfortable now will make me comfortable in the future. Right, so that's just read up. This is the Hebrew word. The other thing is in school, the good girl syndrome. Okay, and it's so funny. I'm reading this book, right, and it's from this lady called Playing Big, and she talks about this good girl syndrome, which is not just happening in Asia. It's a global phenomenon. When we're in school, girls usually do very well in school, right? So the teacher marks your work and says, "Great job, great job, Frida. You got an A plus." Now, when you start going to work, if you're not gonna, and you expect people to recognize you for your work, understand that you do have to speak up if you've done a good job, and not expect that this is school and someone say A plus, right? You do, and we are then quiet and hoping that we get recognized. If we've done a good job, we've got to learn to speak up for ourselves. Of course, not blow hot air, but do speak up about ourselves. There are a couple of things as well. I don't know how you take it. There are stereotypes, right? Mother, like when we try to put stereotypes of how just because you're working, you cannot be a mother. So understand these kind of stereotypes that we're going to go through, and understand again. This is a work scenario. There's no shortage of mentors. You can find mentors everywhere. And as you start working, right, remember for the girls to look out for other women as well, to advocate other women as well, and and not be afraid to share your story, and to uplift other women as we move along this journey, right? And I'm just going to end off with this. I think this is when you start working, this chart will probably make more sense. So this is my short sharing. I am going to now go back to you guys, and should I stop sharing? No. Yeah, or I'll leave it there in case you all have any questions to certain charts. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for this beautiful session.
Welcome.
Yes. There are some questions. Can you elaborate the thing, ma'am? Reframe problems that you gave in the slide.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay, very good. Sometimes something very simple, right? I'll give you this simple thing. When someone says, I don't know how to solve this problem, right? When you say things like, I don't know how to solve this problem, it's a full stop. But when you say, how can I solve this problem? The moment you say, how can I solve problem, your mind starts thinking of solution. Maybe, so and so will know the answer. Maybe I should check with the lecturer. Maybe my mother knows the answer, right? So a simple thing in terms of the words we say, right? And supposed to, I don't know what to do, change it to, I wonder what I can do to resolve this. Who might have the answer? So this is a very it's so important, right? When we say certain things, it either puts a full stop or it gets you thinking that I can get help. Yeah.
Okay. So we have to first find the solution of the problem. That is reframing of problems, right?
Yeah. Reframing our words.
Yes. uh, you showed us the chart that our life consists of 8 to 9 parameters, right? So
Mm,
how can we balance that, all these parameters during our day-to-day life?
okay. Do you want me to go back? I'll go back to that chart just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a long way back, but never mind. I'll get there. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, first of all, the word balance is, I think, not valid, right? I think you want to use words like work-life integration, right? And at different points in your life, you have different things. So it's not going to be every. I think we've been told you can have everything in the world. I think that's not true. You can have everything you want in life, but not at the same time. Okay? You have to take different priorities at different times and what is important to you right now. I'll give an example. So when I had my son and he was much younger, right? And he was much younger, work was important. Work was important, but raising my son was more important. I know I did not want to quit my job. So my priority in terms of my career was keep job. I do enough I wasn't looking for the promotion. My priority was my son at the same time, but I know I did not want to lose job. Right. So that was the important thing at that point, and that was important for a couple of years. But I also made sure I had time for fitness, I'd make time for other things, right? Spirituality, make sure I go to church every week. Right. It's a simple goal like this. So I don't lose track of my spirituality, right? Finances, make sure that I still save X amount every month, right? So it doesn't have to be a big goal. So again, understanding the different life stages. For example, now like for 1 year 2015 I finished a full marathon running, and that was a big fitness goal, right? It was a big fitness goal, and I wanted to do that, and that was one thing. Okay, that was a big one, but doesn't mean other things disappeared, right? But I know some things have to like sort of take a back seat for a while, but I still spend time with son, right? But he's a bit older at that time and he didn't really want to spend time with me anymore. But I make sure I did still spend time with son. But that was just a different. So you'll notice that there are different things that you want at this point. Like my son will be going to university soon. And I know that he's going to go off and have his own life. And I'm very prepared for the fact that, I don't want to have an empty nest syndrome, right? Because he's got to have his own life. I've very prepared myself for that. So now my focus a little bit more on my career, right? My life, I know mothers love their children. I know this whole thing in India, mothers love their, right? And it is important, but I also understand that he's got his life and I've got to have my life. And he will actually feel a lot better knowing that mom is okay, right? I don't want to guilt trip my son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. We have to give freedom to our kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is fun and recreation? Means that is you were talking about hobbies or
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. This is so important, right? We don't schedule fun. We always think, so like, okay, for me, fun and creation could be just going for a walk, right? So I mean, so it becomes then fitness and fun, right? I'll tell you, this is something that I do, right? When I could, I love to cook. love going on holidays, okay, like most people. So when I go for my holidays, I actually try to incorporate. If I go, I went to Turkey for a holiday, I actually incorporate a run in Turkey, right? And so what was so interesting is I was running, I was looking at the sights, and I was getting exercise, and it was also fun. And I incorporated these things, right? So, but this is the big ones, right? But I'm just talking in your everyday life, right? Do you make time to have fun? Do you have make time to relax? Do you make time to have, good times with friends or whatever it is to recreate, right? So we cannot say it's by the way, because it is, when we talk about mindfulness and meditation, it is an important thing. It is not like I'll save fun for later. Include that in your life, right? And what could be fun for you?
You talked about mentor, right? How can we
Mm.
know that who is our right mentor in our life?
Okay. Um, okay, this is again your physical mentor where you meet someone, right? And then there's also your, I guess like I was talking about books that you can read and all that, right? I guess it's going through whatever you're going through at this point in your life, right? Maybe it's like for example, like I said, I love stories about women entrepreneurs. I love stories about that. I started Google, right? I started Google and say, okay, wow, this person, she's written this book, right? And then I read about this, right? What interests you at that moment is a Google away. My time when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a Google away, right? So, and then you go and look into TED Talks, you look into, so this is, I'm just saying people that you can't meet, right? And if it's people that you can meet, sometimes it's just a case of, I want to understand your industry a little bit better. Can I ask you a couple of questions via email to get your insights? And then if the person is very nice, can. If the person's like, or if you can even say, can I buy you lunch? Can I do something to understand a person, right? But at the same time, I guess in the work situation, you will get mentors, and but people are busy. Understand that people are busy as well, right? So you can say, you want to be my mentor. The person may not have the time to be your mentor, but you can ask questions, you can read about things, right? Take the initiative. Take the initiative. No one owes you a living. You have to start looking for it, and I know in a work situation they will probably assign you a mentor and everything, but right now just seek out and see what you can learn from people. Yeah.
Sometimes it happens that the parents don't support our idea.
Right.
Okay, and because of that, the students don't work on that thing and just stay at the point that they are, right?
Mm.
So, can you give some idea or advice for the other students?
Oh, okay. Who, because their parents are not encouraging?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, and this is okay. Can you give me an example of example they want to try a new thing, but the parents are not
Yes.
encouraging that sort of thing, right? I'm trying to see what it is. Um, you can read about things, right? I'm trying to think of my son. I'm trying to push him to do a lot more things. Actually, he's sleeping right now. He just got his vaccination. And I'm maybe not your typical mother, right? And so maybe you have to take the initiative. You have to do some things. You can do things, whether it's virtually, try out new things. If it's not illegal, right? If it's not illegal and it doesn't interfere with whatever you're doing right now, I think parents should be encouraging, right? I mean, in that case, but so you have to also say, am I living my own life, right? And I understand this whole thing about respecting your parents and that kind of thing, but if it's not going to affect and harm anybody, right? Or it's not going to affect you from your, prove you've had some little successes whatever you're trying, right? And also respect your parents because they are probably paying for your education and all that. But try little things as well to show that, what I'm doing is bearing some fruit, right? And I have a little bit of a I think having a bit of a Western mindset, although I'm not Western in that sense, I'm just, maybe I've read a lot and just said that I always believe that everybody has a path, right? I cannot expect my son to be like me. I'm more chatty. He's not very chatty, but that's who he is, right? And I cannot expect him to be like me because we're all born with same family, but different DNA, right? I understand that, right? And it's a difficult conversation with parents, I know, but I understand that my son is just going to be his thing. I looked at him; he's very good at design. That's his area, and I want to encourage him in that area. But if he wants to try something else, and he shows me he's got the dedication to do that, sure, right? Sure, yeah.
So it
I,
is
I, I
duty
don't
of
know if that I don't yeah I don't know if that answers your question.
yes. So I think it's duty of the parents to support their children, right?
Yeah.
And
If
if
the
they are
parents
wrong,
watching, if the parents are watching, then I'll tell the parents.
and if they are wrong, then they should advise for that thing.
Right. Right.
Yes. So, how can we make our brand? You also talked about the branding our self, right?
Right.
So, how can we make our brand?
Okay. So let me just start from a student's perspective because all of you are very young and all this sort of thing, right? But okay, first of all, are you all on LinkedIn, right? Start now. Start now on LinkedIn. Doesn't matter that you're still a student, still a student. Get on LinkedIn, build your profile from there, have your presence built up there, share projects that you're working there, right? And even so, this is what I mean, right? Start doing things, and if you're doing projects as videos and all that, upload it so that you are visible because now people will recognize the content that you created, right? So you've got to start building your brand right now as a student, right? Also understand that everything you do is all online, so don't do anything naughty because that will be found online and people can search for you. And but I mean, just of course be yourself, right? Be yourself, but just be aware that some things are going to be online forever, right? So just be aware of that. But start building your profile right now. Start building whatever it is that you're doing right now, even before you've graduated. Don't wait till you've graduated. So I'm using LinkedIn because that's the most professional site. Yeah.
Yes, according to you, LinkedIn is the best way to brand, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Career wise, since I'm
Yes,
speaking to
correct.
students, yes. Yes. Mm.
No FB, no Insta.
It depends. Okay. I'll give you a different person a story. Okay, and this is just as I'm sharing this. There's this friend of mine. She is a family counselor, family social, whatever. She builds a brand on Facebook because she has a Facebook group. Right. So she's a Facebook group, and a lot of mothers are asking her questions. And so Facebook is the right platform because she's a family specialist and the mother. So you can also build your brand that way, right? So I'm just giving you scenarios. Instagram is also right if you're in a very marketing kind of role. So it's also right on Instagram or even TikTok if you have to right now because it can be a way as well. I'll give you another story in Vietnam last year when the pandemic hit. And there was a very popular song in Vietnam. And somebody did a song using the same tune, but it talked about let's all wash our hands, right? So with the same tune, and that worked on TikTok, right? So and then the younger people were watching it, and then they were also paying attention to wash their hands. So it works differently. So depending on what you are, and probably that's part two. But there's a lesson on branding that I can give you, but that's later. But if
Yes.
you're building your brand right now, LinkedIn, right? That's the first place. If you're looking for a job, that's the best place. Mm.
So we can work on short videos also, right?
Yes. Create videos, great. Yeah.
Mhm. Uh, how can we make students to work more on spirituality?
Sorry.
How can we make our students work more on spirituality? Because
Oh, work more.
nowadays, yes, the students are more on mobile, and
Oh,
since 1.5 year, and it is more, right?
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So on spirituality, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Download a spiritual app. since you're online anyway, you can
Yes.
download. But seriously, I think guys really very important. The spiritual side of things. Um, you cannot be to eat. I know, like I say, your faith, my faith, I think is important. You cannot be complete if your cup is empty, right? And I always say that if your cup is empty, you cannot be complete. cannot give. So it is important. And if you're an atheist, well, sorry, but but I believe that without a higher power, I cannot do what I do, right? And that is my anchor, right? Whatever I do, that is my anchor. If everything disappears and I don't have my spiritual side to anchor me, then what is it all for, right? Because everything else is so not permanent, right? It's not permanent. So understand spirituality is important, because when you're going to go through hardships in life, you will. If you haven't, you will. Right. And hardships is different for different people, right? Not just money, whatever, you're going to go through different issues. I've gone through a marital breakdown. You're going to go through different things, right? And if you don't have your faith to guide you and to keep you anchored, right, it's very difficult, right? And I knew that for a couple of months, I couldn't do that. So I had to fill my cup, right? I had to fill my cup before I could give again, because my cup was empty. I did not have the spiritual side. And you think you're not going to need it, you're going to need it. And I remember, because I have a spiritual family, that when my life was crumbling, I had my spiritual family, right? I had spiritual connections. So that is a very important part of life. Mm.
Yes, that's true. Spiritually, we should be strong. That will help
Yeah.
during our failure as well as progress time.
Yep, exactly.
And you gave us a good idea to make a spiritual app.
Yeah.
That will be more helpful. Students will be agreed for that, or a spiritual game.
Right, right. Yeah, gamification, right? You get higher points, closer to heaven.
Yes, yes, right. So that will be more fruitful for students nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think we can end our session, ma'am. It was very nice talking with you.
Thank you. I
Yes,
hope the students understood me, and thank you so much for your time. Namaste.
yes, yes, ma'am. You were quite clear. So I think all the students and faculties were clear to you. Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank Hemal Patel sir, the HOD of our department, the HR of our institute, Professor Chatik Vaitia sir, the academic director, Dr. Mahesh Bhatt sir, and the president of our university, Dr. Devanshu Patel sir, for motivating and supporting us continuously. Last but not the least, I would like to thank you all the participants who assembled here today for this webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
Study hard.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.